Hey y'all, I'm
Powered by
Kimberly,
Riverside
and
FM.
this is the Frolicking Truth, a soft space for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal. Here, joy meets justice. We calm our Black ass nervous systems, we unmask, and we leave behind whatever that is trying to kill us. You're seen here, you're safe here, and you don't have to do this alone.
You know what? I really like that vibe on that intro. I did that, right? Because earlier I was talking in the behind the scenes, I was talking about where my skill sets live. But I like that I found that. I did that. I like it. I like it a lot. I created that trailer too. Okay. I'm just popping my shit for a second. Okay. But it took a lot of brain power for it to happen. But I like it. It's a vibe. And that's what I wanted for this podcast, right? Because I don't want my life to be a production. I honestly don't. I really just want to just be. And a lot of times things become productions because that's what I'm used to doing. And I have to like constantly call myself back from that. So I'm trying to be intentional in how I am structuring this space because this is a space for me to sit crisscross applesauce on the sofa and just be like, listen, let me tell you the things, right? So I feel like I'm kind of going in that direction. So as I was taking that in, I did my big one with that one. I like it. I really, really like it. So hey y'all, my name is Kimberly. Last week I realized that I have not been introducing myself and I forget that people find me at different places on this journey. So I'm trying to be more intentional about that. And I know that I say it in the intro, but I need to do a better job at saying it every time. So my name is Kimberland, and I am excited that you are here. So I want to invite you to come on in, find a comfortable spot, take a seat, and get into the things with me today. This is episode 5 of the Frolicking Truth podcast for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal, where joy meets justice and nervous systems get free. Even though I just said that, it doesn't mean that you aren't welcome if you don't identify with any of those descriptors. It just means that when you come, I want you to come ready to listen, learn, and support, right? So thank you for being here for episode number 5. And yeah, I'm really proud of myself that I have created this. Sometimes it's difficult for me for things to go from thought to actual execution. And this is my promise to myself that I'm going to create the space that I intended to create. And I'm proud of myself for actually adhering to that and honoring that. And I'm grateful that y'all are here to take this journey with me. My life has been so wild over the past 5 to 6 years. And that is also the time that a lot of my life has been lived on the internet. I'm going to talk about this a little later, but it's almost like a time capsule to myself. And that makes me be very intentional about the types of things that I'm doing. So that is kind of the mindset that I bring here to the Frolicking Truth. Yeah, I think it's important to kind of contextualize that because there's a reason that I'm doing things the way that I'm doing it. So, anyway, having said that, I want to get started and kick us off. So, my first segment is called the Auntie Check-In, and that is the segment where I kind of take a moment to catch y'all up about what is going on because a lot of the things that are happening with me, they happen in Patreon because that's the safest place for me to be able to give right now information. And then the things that I put out publicly are often things that have happened a year ago. So this is a space for me to kind of give you a few tidbits. Okay, you're not going to get all the tea. Okay, but you'll get a little something right here because I realize that everybody isn't able to join my Patreon. If you are, though, it's only $5 a month. And there is a 7-day free trial for when you join because, again, I'm trying to be really intentional about this community. So it's called the Inner Circle. And the Inner Circle are the people that actually have access to me and what is happening because it's a lot that's happening behind the scenes that I can't really talk about publicly. So this Auntie Check-In is a way for me to be able to give you a little snippet about what's going on, share what's on my heart, maybe something I learned, unlearned, what have you, whatever's that week. So I want to kick off this week with sharing that I completed the move. Okay. So last week I recorded on Wednesday. Now let me give myself some credit because I have honored the Wednesday record date for the most part, even through me moving. And that was a huge accomplishment. So I had recorded last Wednesday and then I moved on Friday. Which meant that I didn't get the podcast edited and uploaded to the public until Saturday. And I think it was like late Saturday. My goal is really for it to come out on Friday. Life wasn't letting that happen for a little bit. But it got up in that week. And that is an accomplishment. Okay, in the midst of the things. So anyway, I moved and it was a very painless process for the most part. The place where I am staying is in the mountains and it is outside of the city, maybe let's say about into the where everybody wants to go in the city. The area is called Poblado. And it's maybe about 30 minutes from Poblado, which is not wild because from end to end of Medellin is probably about an hour or so. So this is just 30 minutes outside of the city. And that's not bad. That's like a normal commute. But it's also a little bit difficult to find, which I appreciate because I don't really want to be found right now. And on this property, the property is owned by an alternative medicine doctor, and she has a garden on the property, and the landscaping is absolutely gorgeous. And they've been out here for a while, so they have a lot of conveniences that are figured out. And most importantly, it's quiet because my brain was fin to explode where we were living for the past 3 months. There was a construction site that was right outside the window. So there was constant jackhammering all day long, Monday through Saturday. It was a lot. So I never felt as autistic as I felt while I was living there. Because when I tell you I cannot take construction noise, I can't do it. It tears me to pieces. Okay. So, anyway, none of that is here. None of that. It is very quiet, and I needed that more than I really had the words to be able to express. So, it's so quiet that it's loud, and not bad loud, but good loud. Like it very much is the wind blowing and birds chirping and the fan in the background. No sensory overload. No sensory overload, which is so helpful to me because I also live with OCD, and OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. And for me, it centers around bathrooms very heavily, and it's really difficult for me to adjust. And change just in general is now very difficult on my nervous system because I am a person who craves stability and predictability. I already knew I was going to be dealing with that and managing that and trying to figure that out. And I am so grateful that I also am not managing sensory overload. So while I am not completely rested and settled in my body and like grounded, I feel so much closer to that than I have been. And it feels within reach because this adjusting period is something that is normal. I haven't even been here for a week yet. So it usually does take me a while to be able to get it together, for lack of a better way to put it. And so I already expected that. But I'm grateful that I'm not also managing the other stuff, except for one thing. Lucy, yeah, going outside. No, no. No, girl, this is not your house. Out. Out, out, out. Okay. Now we can hang out here. Yeah, so you can sit here.
How are you? Hi. Hello. Hello, pretty girl. Hi. There's a nice little cat here named Lucy. And Lucy is so pretty. She's a little gray cat and she's got like some blonde highlights. Okay, real cute. And she comes to visit, every day. And that is so beautiful. And also, she just be walking up in here like, what you doing? And this is the thing for me. First of all, I'm not a cat person. I've never been a cat person. I remember my cousin Kalanda that I have the podcast with, her mama had a cat when I was younger. I was probably a teenager because I had my own room by this time. So I had to be, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna say middle school, maybe. So she had this cat, and the cat, we was watching the cat. We meaning me and my brother. Now my brother is 8 years, 7.5 to 8 years younger than me. Okay. So if I'm like 13 or 14, he's like 6 or 7, right? So we watching the cat, and I ain't never did cats. I've always been a dog person my entire life. Okay, cats, and after this experience, definitely no. So anyway, we watching the cat, and next thing I know, the cat is like laying on my face, and I feel like I'm about to suffocate. So I'm like freaking out. I'm like throwing the cat away, like not even for a care or concern about what happened to, because why are you trying to kill me is how I took it. So I put the cat out, right? So me and my brother, the way our house was set up at this time, it's almost like we had our own wing, kind of. And I want you to take that in the most basic way that you possibly can. It was literally just our rooms were on the other side of the house from our parents' room. So we were just over on that side of the house by ourselves, kind of. So anyway, I told you my brother is probably like 6 or 7 at this time. So I put the cat out of my room. And we weren't really allowed to close doors in our house either, right? But I did. I closed because this cat is trying to kill me, right? So anyway, the cat goes into my brother's room. Okay. And I don't know what the cat did up in my brother's room, but what I do know is I had woke up to go to the bathroom. So the bathroom is in the hallway, and my brother is laying in the hallway. So I'm like, why are you? What is happening? Why are you in the hallway? Now, there were times where we would lay in the hallway, but why are you in the hallway now at this point in life? That's other stories for other days. But why are you in the hallway right now? So he was like, the cat, and it wouldn't leave me alone. And so he gave the cat his entire room, his whole room, and he went and laid in the hallway. So we had to wind up getting the cat and just putting the cat in the hallway. She got to come get this cat. She got to come get this cat, okay? So anyway, I ain't never really been a cat person. So I don't mind them as long as they are not on my things. And again, I live with OCD. Okay. So what I know and understand is that they're cleaning themselves all day, and that's great and that's fine and that's wonderful. And also the floor is dirty. Okay. So now you're taking your dirty paws and putting your dirty paws on my clean clothes or my pillow or what. I don't want to do that with you, little kitty. Okay. So that's how Lucy is walking around. So, because the way that it's set up is you can open the doors. So it's like outside is right here, So I'm in covering, and then it's the whole like mountainside and view and like all of this. And so I was having the doors open, right? So Lucy just sauntered on in here, like, girl, what you doing? And I was like, hey, sis, what's up? Right. So then she gets on the bed, gets under the bed. All right, girl, you got to go now. Hey, you got to go, sis. Like, I understand that you technically this your house, and also not right now, sis. You got to go. So I did that. Then one day I forgot about her, right? And so I feel like I was in the kitchen, and then I saw her walk like through and go outside. So then I thought she had just came in the one door and walked out the other. So already, hey girl, again, reminder, you don't live here, sis. Okay. So I appreciate you. And also go outside, ma'am.
But I was kind of like, let me just close the door. So I closed the door and I turn around and all of the rugs. So I have rugs that I brought with me because the floors are tile and tile is very triggering to me. And I like to be able to have something, a zone where I don't have to wear slippers or shoes. And so I create that zone by having my own like little rugs from IKEA that I brought with me, right? So Lucy had done tore up all the rug, not tore them up, but like messed them up. They not lined up no more. Like she had been up in here. So then I was like, oh God, did she go in the bathroom? Because I had just saged the house. And that's what was crazy is I had just saged the house. And then she sauntered her little self up in here. So now I'm all on Chat GPT. Like, what is the spiritual significance of cats coming in the house and what is going on? So they were like, no, cats are intuitive and they so this and they great and they wonderful. And I was like, okay, all of that's good. And also I don't want her in here. Okay. So how can I help her stay outside? Because no. So they tell me what to do. And even what I love about this, the thing about ChatGPT, y'all, I promise all of this is going somewhere, but welcome to my world. My brain people are up. I told y'all last week that I finally got the right medicine. So amen. Amen. So anyway, what I love about my ChatGPT is it knows me, right? So it was like, do you want a holistic way to be able to help retrain Lucy? You can use citrus. They even gave me affirmations to say to reaffirm my boundaries with Lucy. Like it was so funny. But also thank you so much, ChatGPT. I really appreciate it. So over the past few days, I have been training Lucy to understand that she is not welcome inside the house. And she has really been testing these boundaries. And it's gonna be interesting. So I'm gonna have to keep y'all posted on the Lucy Chronicles. OCD and cat chaos don't mix. Let me tell you how hard they don't mix. Okay. Like I can't no, can't do it. Not gonna be able to work. So anyway, that's been interesting. That's been an interesting adjustment with Lucy and the cat drama. Also, there she go. I done talked her up. She's sitting right here outside the window. Yeah, she be over here. And I appreciate it. I'm like, girl, come and check on me. Like, I'll come outside and have my morning tea with you, girl, and all of that. And also, don't come in this house. Okay? So we could talk out here because she be talking. And I love me a vocal cat. Kalanda had cats. And they used to be talking all the time. And I loved it. And also, stay out my bedroom. Okay. So anyway, the cat chronicle. So that's how I've been doing. Is trying to get settled into this space and just really appreciative that it's been quiet. And the owner, she messaged me today and she was like, you can walk around the property if you want to, and you don't have to stay down there. And I'm like, I appreciate that, but also I'm very peaceful down here. I've been cooking. Yesterday, I made some shrimp and vegetable teriyaki. It was so good. So I used one of the recipes that Chef Ratatouille and I had for for the honey teriyaki salmon, I think is what it's called. And then I adapted that for the shrimps. So good. I also had made fish tacos. He taught me how to make this batter. In the batter, I used salt, pepper, paprika, curry, garlic powder, and flour because I didn't have any of the corn. I don't know what you call it. Here they call it corn flour, but in the States we would call it cornmeal. I didn't have any of that for the fish. So I was like, hey, Chef Ratatouille, how can I still make this fish good? So he taught me how to make this batter. It was so good and I made a pico de gallo. It's a garden here, right? So I had went and got some peppers from the garden to put up in there so it had the right amount of spice. Oh my God. So that's been really awesome. I have been enjoying that a lot. So I have been cooking and kind of getting myself used to the flow, because this is very much like a studio type space, tiny house type living and all of that. So just, trying to where's my counter space gonna be, my triangle, if you will. So yeah, it's been really nice. And I feel like I'm getting my routines back in order because I didn't have my routine it just wasn't really taking off the way I needed to take off. And I need to have a routine. So I'm back on my routine. I've been still making my tea every day. And I brought my plants with me. When I tell you they are thriving, thriving. My mint and spearmint is out here on the patio. The leaves are so big and so green right now. It thriving. Okay. So I feel like I'm so many steps closer to the life that I have envisioned for myself. And though, so I'm only here that I know of until June 30th. So I am still very much in the process of seeking asylum and all of those things, right? And I talked to the people today, and there's still tweakings and things that need to be done and all that. So again, that's Patreon information. But I said that to say I'm here until the end of the month. And I promised myself that instead of worrying and like trying to fast forward time, that I would be very intentional about being present in these moments and allowing myself to stabilize myself in these moments and just allow God to do what God needs to do. Because here's the thing. I can't do nothing about none of that, none of this. I can't expedite it. I don't have no kind of privilege to be able to wield to make it happen. All I can do is just be like, hey, Lord, can you make sure that this goes the way that I need it to go so I can have peace? Like that's all that I can do. So I really have very much released it, and I am focusing on enjoying the tranquility of my life right now. So yeah, that is my Auntie Check-In. I'll keep y'all posted on what that looks like next week. And I'll talk to y'all in the Patreon about what that's looking like from day to day and share some of the behind the scenes things. So I'm trying to decide where I want to go next, because let me go here. So usually here I would do the truth is, but I'm gonna actually put this new segment here that I came up with last week, and it's called Frolicking in the Feed. And Frolicking in the Feed is the opportunity for me to kind of tell y'all what kind of like the rabbit holes maybe that I've been on, or like viral videos, pop culture moments, like those kind of things that I feel like I want to pause for a moment and center on, right? So the other thing that I've been doing while cooking and getting the space set up and all of that is watching my programs. I said it like my grandma would say it. But I have been catching up on things that I wanted to watch that I just hadn't had the chance to watch. So at the last place, there wasn't a TV in my room. So I primarily was watching YouTube, and that was kind of just about it. And every so often, I might watch something on Disney Plus, but it was pretty much like YouTube was what I was consuming, if I was consuming anything at all. And now that my brain is able to settle, I have the capacity again to be able to intake certain things. And while I still watch YouTube, there's definitely content creators that I'm very intentional about keeping up with. What I also was doing was watching some of the things on the Netflix that I had missed. Okay. And some of my favorite shows that I just love to watch and just really didn't have the capacity to watch. So I started, going down my list of the different things that I had been wanting to see. And I started watching Bridgerton again. But anyway, as I was perusing through, I came across the series called Forever that is on Netflix. Now, I had been hearing people talking about Forever. They were like, oh my gosh, it's so good and it's so wholesome and, all of this. And we just, love it so much. But I was kind of avoiding what, like, being participating in those conversations because I didn't want no spoilers. And I know that I'm behind everybody else. So I can't blame them if they start talking about it. I just can't listen because I want to see it. So I was like, okay, let me just watch one episode and let me just kind of see what's going on with it. So let me kind of give you the background. So it is based on a book that is written by Judy Blume. The book was written in 1975, and it's like a coming of age story of two teenagers who are falling in love, experimenting with sex for the first time, and all of the awkwardness that comes with being a teenager and trying to navigate relationships. So it was created by or reimagined by one of my favorite creators. Her name is Mara Brock Akil, and she was behind the program called Girlfriends when I was growing up. She also wrote for Moesha and the Jamie Foxx show. She created Sparkle, and that was with Whitney Houston just before she passed. Mara also created Being Mary Jane with Gabrielle Union, and that is a show that I really like. That when they started talking about it, I was like, I need to watch that again. Like I love that show. Mara created another show called Love Is that had come out a few years ago, and I really, really, really loved it. And it only had one season, but it was so awesome. And there was a scandal that was behind it, and it was crazy. Like I was mad because that was a good show. So anyway, so Mara Brock Akil is the one who reimagined this book and turned it into this show. Okay. All right. So I turn on Forever and I am just immediately captivated. She being Mara, the creator, changed the main characters to Black characters. So there is a Black girl named Keisha and a Black boy named Justin. And she switched the characteristics of the teens from how they were originally written. They're both in high school, and Justin is like this awkward boy who has ADHD, and he plays basketball, and he's trying to figure out what life looks like for him. And then there's Keisha, who is also in high school, and she is very driven and very focused on a goal and objective of where she wants to go for college. And also, she has this experience that she's carrying with her that has affected her reputation. And the story is about them navigating the complexities of that and learning how to love each other and messing up and not communicating effectively and like all of this. And it was so good. When I tell you I was in here bawling, like crying my eyes out, but not in like a trauma type of way. It was very much in like remembering what it was like to have my first love, and even some adult relationships that I've had characteristics of this, like people who don't know how to communicate and aren't honest with what they're feeling, and how that leaves room for creating narratives that don't even exist, but because you don't ask questions or because you leave things unsaid, then now you're causing harm to yourself, like self-sabotaging behaviors. And like it was a lot. And then the parents were really interesting, and being old enough to have children but not having children, thinking about what that would look like through the adult lens as opposed to through the lens of being a teenager, and the different dynamics that came along with that. One of the families is a family of means, have, worked their way out the hood, if you will. So even exploring like the complexities of what it is to live in the Black upper class type of experience versus in a Black working class type of experience. I was looking at that. So anyway, I said all that to say I think I'm going to start a series of talking about Forever because it was so much to explore, and there are so many different themes that are present in it that we need to talk about because we don't be talking about this stuff. And one of the things that came up for me that we need to honor and acknowledge is the reality of how teenagers feel about the relationships that they're involved in. So, whether those relationships are friendships, whether they are romantic relationships, it doesn't matter. But the complexities of a teenager figuring out what that looks like for them while also processing how they have learned to have relationships from the adults that are in their life and how that impacts them in the long run is something that's really important to me because so y'all know I'm an educator, and when I was in the classroom I taught middle school science, and middle school is the area of school that I chose to work at for the majority of my career, it is the age range that I find myself called to, because they are very much trying to figure out how to be people. And if they are the oldest child, their parents are trying to figure out how to be parents, and they don't know what to expect in middle school and during middle school. So I would find myself not just teaching and supporting my students, but also supporting their parents and caregivers in how to better support them. And when I transitioned out of the classroom and then I went back to a school, the position that I had was called a student success coach. And I worked with students who were considered to be quote unquote at risk, and the commonality between them is that they had experienced failure in either their academics, their behavior, or in their attendance. So at least one of those places they had experienced some type of failure. Oftentimes they had two of the three, and sometimes they had three of the three that they had experienced failure in. So my job was to help them to be able to experience success again. And this is how I got really interested in brain research and trauma and social emotional learning competencies and restorative practices and ways to support people in emotional intelligence, because I was seeing this manifesting with my children, with my students, and I wanted to be able to help them because I saw myself in them, and I knew what it felt like to know that there's more that's going on here. Like, it's not just that you can't do this math. There's something else that's happening here. Like, they have stories, like they all have stories that they're bringing. And I became very curious about how they were interpreting the things that happened to them, and being a safe space for them to be able to come and be people and to be seen as people, as opposed to numbers or go sit down and do whatever. So I became this very fierce advocate for my students and for their experiences, because their experiences are very, very, very real. They're very real. What happens is a lot of adults minimize children's experiences. For instance, if we're talking about like teenage love and something happens in the relationship and the children are distraught about it, instead of supporting them in that, in helping them to identify their emotions and think about, how to heal that and actually acknowledge how they are feeling, and being able to talk through that, and what did you learn from this experience, and what does this look like, sound like, and again, whether this is romantic or friendship, because I was dealing with both, right? Instead of doing that, we say things like, you gonna have so many boyfriends, girlfriends by the time you graduate, ain't nobody worrying about that stupid girl, boy, da 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 da. Or we say things like, I mean, they weren't your friends anyway, so it's better, it's fine. And we're not acknowledging that to them, that is their entire world. And if we as adults, if our entire world felt like it was crumbling, and we go to work, we go to our people, safe people in our lives, and they're like, I don't give a what you talking about. Do what I said and shut up. That would be detrimental to our mental health. And that happens to some of us, right? That we don't have the privilege of being able to take off and heal from these toxic situations that are happening. We just have to keep pressing through because we trying to make a living, and we trying to make a living for these kids or for whatever, right? And it doesn't feel good, but we also do that to our children. So I would often be in positions to redirect parents and caregivers and adults about how they were causing harm, as this child is coming to you and saying that this is how I'm feeling, and instead of holding space for their feelings, you are telling them not to feel and just move on. I think I've shared with you all before, I didn't learn how to feel until I was 40. Okay. And I am currently 44. 4 years ago, I learned how to feel, because I wasn't allowed to feel when I was a child. I wasn't allowed to have feelings. The only feelings that I could have was happiness. And I had to perform that every single day. It's why I am so animated, is why I'm such a good storyteller, is why I'm an actor, because that's what I did for my entire life until 4 years ago when I learned how to feel. It causes so much harm. And a lot of it is because you don't know how to feel your own self. You don't feel comfortable with your own feelings. So you are stomping on the feelings of this little person that is entrusted in your care because that's what was done to you. And I would see that happen and just would not stand for that. Just no, that's not what we finna do up in here, because these are people and they might be young people and little people, but they are people and they did not ask to be here. That's the truth of it all. They did not ask to be here. And it like made me start, and it really, I want to do a survey, honestly, to ask people with children, why did you have a child or multiple children? Because we have such a short amount of time with children and the amount of damage that we cause to children. And I'm saying we just to be inclusive because I don't have kids. But I see the things that happen because I talk to your children. So I know what they're carrying. And some of them are carrying, some of these kids are carrying things that are heavier than anything I've had to carry in my life has been wild. So there were times that kids would come to me and tell me things, and I'm like, I don't know as a full adult how I would even deal with that and process that. And this is stuff that children are holding, children without a fully developed frontal lobe, children who are trying to figure out what it means to be a person. And as parents, we place all of this pressure on children. We treat them as if they don't have thoughts. We treat them as if they don't have feelings. We treat them as if they are robots. We treat them as if they are housekeepers and court jesters. And then we wonder, once they get older, why we have so many people who are estranged and separated from their family as adults, because these children did not ask to be here. So if you were not going to take seriously the fact that you are being trusted with the soul and spirit of a person, if you're not going to take that seriously, why did you have children? If you are not going to ensure that every day that you are intentional about the way that you communicate with them, the way that you protect their hearts and their spirits, the way that you provide stability for them, if you were not going to do that, why did you have them? They did not ask to be here. You decided that you wanted to have kids. That makes you responsible for them and to them, to ensuring that they are safe, not just physically, also emotionally and psychologically. Because the things these kids are carrying, and then you expect them to go to school and just do the math. And I've talked to us about brain research before. I think maybe I have. I don't know. Because I just be talking. But I'm going to just say it here just for the sake of anybody who don't have to go look at another video. Our brain, matter of fact, hold on. Let me actually pull up. I'm about to go into teacher mode because I just need us to understand this. And this is so important to me because not only am I healing from the things that happened to me when I was a child, the stuff that I never asked for, the stuff that I had to try to process, the things that I'm still unpacking and trying to process. Not only did that happen to me, but I have seen what happens to our children. I have seen what happens, and I've had to support them through trying to process that and teaching them how to be somewhat successful. Remember, my job was to teach the kids how to experience success again. I had to teach them how to be somewhat successful in spite of the adults that were in their lives that were not showing up for them in the ways that they needed to. And it should infuriate you. Like, it should make you angry that we have young people who are having to carry the consequences of adult decisions and then not even being held with care and compassion. That should make you angry. And if you are somebody that is doing that to children in your life, it should make you want to choose to do something different. Because somebody got to say it. Somebody's got to speak up for these babies who did not ask to be here. So so I'm whipping out my curriculum here so that I can share with y'all what I was about to say about the brain. There are a lot of areas of the brain, but these are the parts of the brain that I want us to focus on here. The bottom part of our brain is our brain stem, and our brain stem is responsible for controlling the involuntary systems. So that's our breathing, our blinking, like your heart beating, like all the automatic things that happen that you don't have to think about. Our brainstem is also responsible for our fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop response. When we are triggered, when we are in survival mode, that is the part of the brain that is responsible for that. Okay, so our brain stem is that area. Above our brain stem is our limbic area of our brain. This is the place where our amygdala lives. So our amygdala is like the security guard of our brain that says everything's good to go or shit's hitting the fan type of thing. So the amygdala lives in the limbic area as well as the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is responsible for our memory, specifically our short-term memory, which helps us to be able to process things that are happening. So we got that. Brainstem controls involuntary responses. Fight, flight, freeze lives there. It works with our limbic area to get us to act. All right. Above that is our prefrontal cortex. So our prefrontal cortex is our decision making center of the brain. It's the place in our brain that controls our impulse response, it controls insight, it controls empathy. The prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until the age of 25 to 27. So when middle school or people under that age, when you say things like, why would they do that? Their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. They do not have a fully developed brain. Okay. Then the last region of the brain is our cortex. So our cortex is the place where we are allowed to think about our thinking. So this is our learning center. This is the part of the brain that moves beyond the automatic things that we're doing, just the basic things, to actually the intentionality and awareness of what is happening lives in our cortex. Okay. So we're going to call it our downstairs brain and our upstairs brain. So, what is important for us to understand in our downstairs brain, again, that's the brain stem in the limbic area, the only question that our brain is asking is, am I safe? So, if there's a triggering event, what happens is our amygdala, the security guard, says, hey, we not safe. So then the brainstem locks it down. Okay, I need to see what's going on. I need to be hyper vigilant. I need to pay attention to what's happening. Am I safe? 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 That is all your brain is asking. If your brain cannot say, yes, I am safe, it stays stuck in that loop until it is able to answer that question, am I safe? Now, I also remember I told y'all the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain, also lives in the limbic area. So when the amygdala shuts everything down, there goes our memory. This is why when we have some type of triggering event, your memory get real shaky. You get very brain foggish because that got shut down because we're not safe. So then let's say you can say, okay, I'm safe. Well, the next question that you're asking yourself, or the next question that the brain is asking is, am I connected? What is my emotional safety? Are there people around me that love and care for me and are providing a safe space for me? If I cannot say that, I remain stuck in that loop. Again, am I safe? Am I connected? Am I safe? Am I connected? Am I safe? Am I connected? It is not until we are able to answer both of those questions definitively and say, yes, I am safe. Yes, I am connected, that we are able to move into our upstairs brain where our executive state lives, and we are able to ask, what can I learn? How can I show up differently? How can I have empathy for other people? How can I be self aware and have emotional intelligence? That lives in the upstairs brain. But if I'm stuck in the downstairs brain, where I'm not safe and I'm not connected, I'm not ever biologically capable of moving into my upstairs brain. So I brought all that up to say our children are living in these constant states of not feeling safe and not feeling connected. And then we send them off to school and we expect them to go up in there and learn. They are not biologically capable of accessing that part of the brain when they do not feel safe and they do not feel connected. And this has implications at home. This has implications at school. So, as a parent or a caregiver, it is our job to ensure that our children have a safe space and have a connected life. Now, if some of us, I speak for myself, I wasn't safe, nor was I connected. And I still was pushing my brain through to figure out what I could learn at the top of my class because I had an objective. I got to get the hell up out of here. And y'all told me that college is the way to do that. College is what we finna do. So we have students who are performing at the top of their class despite not being safe and not being connected. That's some genius level ish right there. Then we have some who are not able to push past that. The things that they are carrying are so heavy, or they really, really aren't safe. Like I had safety every so often. There were certain things that I was able to do to be safer than others, right? I was still walking on eggshells, but technically I had a house and I had food. There are some kids who don't know when they're gonna eat, or the only time they eat is at school. They are raising themselves, they are raising their sibling. They didn't ask to be here. And now you mad because they going to school and they don't have the language to communicate what's going on. They don't have the ability to be able to say, I need help. They don't know how to advocate for themselves. And now you mad because they're not getting all A's. And some of us know what that feels like because that was our life. But I am here to remind us, those of us who are responsible for young people, they did not ask to be here. And it is your job to break the cycle. It is your job to break the cycle because these are innocent kids. No child wakes up and says, I want to be a failure. No child walks into school and be like, I just want to wreak havoc up in this bitch. When kids are little, they love to learn. They love to learn. They're asking questions and they're curious, and what is this and what is that and why is that, and what they're figuring out the world. They just got here. And it's our job to protect that curiosity. It's our job as their parents and caregivers, and it's our job in school. And I'm not going to get on the school soapbox today, only because there's not really time. But I want y'all to know that's what I have spent my life advocating for, is safe spaces for our kids at school. The schools in the United States of America are not safe for any children, but definitely not for children who are Black or brown or an immigrant or have some type of learning disability or have some type of mental health concern. Schools are not safe for those kids at all. So it's also our job as parents and caregivers to be involved in their educational experiences, because schools are murdering children's spirits every day with no problem. Ask me how I know. That is what I do. So we don't get to bring children, bring people into this world that didn't ask to be here and then check out and not protect them. We don't get to do that. No, it is our job to show up. And a lot of that means that you then have to show up for yourself, because that really is the issue, is that we have been taught not to show up for ourselves. So therefore, we're not showing up for our children. Things happen to us, and instead of being intentional about breaking that cycle, we're perpetuating the same harm. And I know that everybody isn't in a position to be vocal about the things that you have experienced, but if you have children, you have a responsibility to find some healing so that them babies don't have to pay for things that they never even asked for. That's the truth. And whether you are, again, someone who's responsible for children or someone who is healing your own inner child, that's the truth. Because you didn't deserve that either. It should not have happened. Whatever the it is, it shouldn't have happened because you didn't ask to be here. So that laid real heavy on my spirit because I know what I have experienced, and I know that the people that I've been able to have candid conversations with have experienced. And it infuriates me because we got to do better, period and point blank. So that was one thing. The other thing that this forever rabbit hole took me down of thinking about. So I mentioned earlier that the creator of the series, her name is Mara Brock Akil, and I mentioned some of the other works that she has had. So I started watching interviews with her talking about with the cast and with her talking about this creative work. So I'm listening to Mara talk about the decisions that she made about creating it and what that why they were inspired and like all of that. And one of the things that she said, she was actually talking about a show that she had done when I was growing up again called Girlfriends. And she said, you know, I wanted to be really intentional about documenting who we are. She was like, I wanted to be intentional about showing how we dress, how we communicate, how we talk, and capturing that for people to see. It reminds me of the concept of like a time capsule because with a time capsule, you are capturing what's happening at that time. You know, you are writing down the price of gas and the price of eggs and all of that for people to uncover later on and see what life was like whenever it was that you left that time capsule. And I never really thought about creative works such as a show or a movie as a time capsule. Like I've thought about it for entertainment purposes and for the story, but I've never really thought about it like, wow, look at how we used to operate back then. I know that now, like I'll watch shows from like the 80s or 90s or whatever, and I am just amazed at one, the quality, right? Because what was we seeing? Huh? Like, I understand also that I'm getting older and my eyes are getting worse, but like, what was we seeing? Because that's fuzzy as hell. Like, it's fuzzy. What were we even seeing back then, you know? But I never really thought about it like that. But now when I look back on it, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the computers. I'm looking at the phones, at the cars. Like all of that is a time capsule. And I never thought about it like that. So anyway, as she was talking about forever and she was talking about the texting piece. And you know, she said that was something that we spent a lot of time talking about was the communication through text because right now that is how we communicate. We live in these virtual worlds and we communicate with people electronically. So they were like, how are they going to capture that? And how are they going to use that as a tool to further the story, but also as a way to capture the way that we communicate right now? And it just got me so intrigued. So one of the things that I really enjoy doing now, which is really interesting because I did not think about movies or things I watched in this way, but now I enjoy watching and looking at the details that set the scene. So like I have a high school classmate of mine is a makeup artist in a movie makeup artist. So for instance, she worked on Sinners, she worked on the Book of Clarence. She's worked on so many of the projects, right? But anyway, the most recent one is like Sinners. And her best friend is the costume. I don't know if it's the designer, but like she goes and sources the pieces for the cast to wear. Before, I never looked at movies and thinking about all of those pieces that go into it. I'm just involved in the story. But when you think about all of the other pieces, again, behind the scenes, I started this off talking in my Patreon about the things that happen behind the scenes in a podcast. When you think about the things that happen behind the scenes in a movie or in a series, all of that allows you to be able to be fully immersed in the story, right? So what they're wearing, the cars, the artistry that's on the wall, what the houses look like all of that set design and all of that contributes to how you're able to receive this story and be fully immersed in this world that they have created. So anyway, Mara was like sharing the intentionality in the ways that she chose, the wardrobe and the hairstyles and like all of these things, the way that they collaborated to create this beautiful work. It just got me so inspired. And it got me inspired on a few levels because, again, thinking about it as a snapshot of the time period makes me want to be more intentional about the types of things that I'm talking about, right? Because there are people in the future that are going to need to know that we were here. There are people in the future who are going to be wondering, well, how did they move and how did they exist in this world? Especially when we're thinking about the drastic things that are happening in the US right now and the global impact that that is going to have. People are going to want to know what happened, right? And it's important for us to be writing and documenting our story because the future is going to need to know that we were here and they need to hear our perspective about what was happening. And it becomes even more important when we're thinking about the erasure of history that is happening right now and the ways that our stories are being erased every single day. Y'all know it's a TikTok trend right now where people are talking about Harriet Tubman wasn't real. They're talking about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth weren't real. And I want to say some of it was like them talking about that they're industry plants and like there's a lot that's going on with the young people right now. And I was going through the comments the other day and I was like, just trying to see how people were receiving what was happening. And a lot of people were like, oh, the young people, they so stupid and they don't know nothing. And didn't you learn history and da 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 da? And guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess who's supposed to teach them that history? Us. We are the ones who are supposed to be keeping these stories passing down. That's our responsibility. And if we are not doing that, how can we be mad at them for not knowing? How they supposed to know? They're not learning about it at school. They are actively rewriting history in school. So how are they supposed to know, they being the young people, supposed to know about the things that happened in history if we are not telling them about it? I was watching one of my favorite creators, Kev on Stage, and in his bonus episode the other day, he was talking about his family and his family dynamics. And it led to some very interesting conversations because his biological father has not been in his life. And the co-host, that chick Angel, her biological father wasn't in her life. And there are so many people that have that story where their biological parents were not in their lives. Again, parents having kids and not being responsible for the children. How you create a whole person and then don't be there. Like, so anyway, Atul said, I saw that. I don't know if they're trolling for views or are they serious. I don't know. But what I do know is that we are depending, and this is a very collective we are depending on schools to be the ones who are holding our stories and sharing our truths. And we cannot do that because the school is not going to do it. The school is going to whitewash everything that has happened and paint, and I'm specifically talking about the United States of America. If you're watching from elsewhere in the world, please chime in the chat because it may be different where you're at. But in the United States, they are actively, for instance, y'all know I used to teach in Florida, and when I left Florida, they had this. They're using it now, but this is called Prager University, and it's like a web series type of thing where they're using it to teach the kids about the past. And what they're teaching the kids about slavery is that these were unpaid workers who received compensation for their labor with housing and food. That's what they're teaching in Florida about slavery. So if we, the ones who actually know what happened, are not being intentional about talking to our children about the things that are actually happening, how are they going to know? So, what happens is our stories get lost. And for someone like myself who does not have children to pass these stories down to, it is very important to me to leave a trail of documentation of me talking about what is happening in my life, what is happening in the world, because I am history. We are all history right now. Every day is history. We're writing history every single day. So we have a responsibility to say, this is what is happening. This is who I am. These were my people. Because otherwise, they're not going to know. And in the absence of us writing our own story, white inferiority complex is going to fill in the gaps. And that's how you get things like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth aren't real, and that slavery was actually just unpaid working. That's how you get that. Because we, the adults, have checked out and we are not doing a good job at documenting what is happening. So I urge all of you to start documenting what is going on in your life and in the world, whether you have children or not, because we all have a role in this revolution that is happening. We are all responsible for holding pieces of that. And all of our lived experiences are valid, whether you have a huge platform or whether your platform is your inner circle. It doesn't matter. You still existed and you are still doing things that count and that need to be acknowledged. So I'm thinking about how I create differently and how I capture things differently, because now it's kind of turning into a documentary of sorts, as opposed to I'm just out here. I never said it like that, but like I'm just out here vlogging just to vlog. Like, no, I'm out here capturing history. And, for someone like me with a story like mine, y'all, I left my home country and moved to a different country to find peace after being bullied for advocating for our children. I am currently in the process of asking for safety in a different country because of the things that I have experienced in the US advocating for our children. And I don't even have children. That is a story that needs to be documented. So, again, I urge you all to document your life as an act of resistance. Give yourself a chance to honor the experiences that you have had and share those experiences with others. And that documentation, y'all, could look like a vlog. It could look like a blog where you are writing. It could look like a journal. It could look like your social media feed, right? But have a different intentionality with how you are showing up to show what is happening, because it does make a difference. Okay. So your soul work for this week is to figure out what part of your story do you want future generations to understand. And all of us have a part. So I don't want to hear, oh, I don't know, I just really have a basic life. I don't want to hear it. All of us have a part of our story that future generations need to understand. So that is our soul work. And I want you to tell me in the comments what part of your story, and you don't have to write the story in the comments, but tell me in the comments what part of your story that you are going to start being intentional about documenting for future generations to understand. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna pause here, do all my commercials and things. Make sure y'all is following me everywhere. Okay. Minds of My Black Ass Business here on YouTube. Like this video, comment on the video, subscribe to the page, right? And this is the thing. More than anything, what I need y'all to do is I need y'all to be talking about me and the things that you learn over here in this space and the experiences that you have over here in this space. I need you to leave from out of here and be like, I need to send this to so-and-so. Let me share this on my page. Let me send this to my daddy, my sister, my brother, my cousin. Let me tell somebody about what is happening over here. Now we had a full scale lesson today. Okay, we learned about brains and brain research today. We learned about how we need to show up better for our children. Okay, we talked about a lot over here today. Okay, so it's something that I know that you can share with somebody. So can you please do that? I would really, really appreciate it. Okay, so like the page, subscribe to the page, comment on the video, share it with somebody. It helps and it is free. Okay, it is free, and I need that support. All right. Also, if I mentioned a few times about my Patreon and my inner circle, if you are looking for a deeper connection, you are looking for the opportunity to be able to have these kind of conversations as well as understanding what's happening behind the scenes, be the first to know about the different projects that I'm working on, being willing to come and have a space to ask questions and to show up as a better version of yourself, please do join my inner circle, patreon.com/minding my black ass business. The inner circle is $5 a month. You get the first 7 days free trial. So when you are in there, you are able to see all the things that I've put up because, this is a reality show over here. Okay. I have been documenting my life for a while now. So it's a lot to binge and to understand and catch up on because a lot has been happening. And a lot of this stuff I've been talking about for a long time, but people ain't been listening. When I first got on here, I said people need to be very intentional about listening to what I am saying because I be knowing and I be saying stuff and then it be happening and then I just be like I've been saying this. I'm finna go, but this is what I want to say. Around this time of year, in 2020, the Black Lives Matter protests were happening. And just the other day, the memory came up from when Trump had weaponized the police on a peaceful protest across from the White House. And he went across the street from the White House to this church and held up the Bible to try to do a photo op. All of this stuff that we're seeing right now that's happening, I've been talking about this since then. Since then, I've been talking about this, right? And now the things are happening, and there are people who are like, "Oh no, where did this come from?" I need us to tap in. Okay, I need us to tap in. So if you are able to be tapped in, I need you to get into the Patreon because pretty soon we're not going to be able to use public platforms to be able to talk about a lot of these things. So we have to be connected in ways that are going to allow us to continue to get the understanding of what is happening and how we need to move and how we need to show up differently. Okay. So this is your call to action. All right. So again, patreon.com/minding my black ass business, kimberlyjackson.com. There you can go and access my blog is over there, as well as get more information about Discover Your Destiny. I'm having another cohort of Discover Your Destiny that's coming up this summer. So I'm in the process of getting everything together for that. I mentioned the internship program earlier. That is something that you may want to look into if you are someone who wants to get into content creation and you want to understand the behind the scenes work like producing and things of that nature. That would be a great place for you to be able to get connected. Okay. So what I need you to do is go to kimberlyjackson.com and get onto my mailing list. And then I need you to make sure that you're following me everywhere because I'm about to start talking about that again. But also outside of the internship program, if you are someone who is saying that you really want to understand who you are, you want to develop a deep personal relationship with God, you want to be able to know what your gifts and talents are and understand your purpose, Discover Your Destiny is for you. If you go onto the YouTube page and there is a playlist that says Discover Your Destiny, you can listen to people who have experienced Discover Your Destiny before. You can hear their testimonials and you can, kind of hear about the different walks of life that they have and what this experience has been like for them. I do highly recommend it. If you are somebody who is wanting to understand your purpose, it is life changing. I will go ahead on and say that we utilize the Bible as the text that we use to understand how God created us. But even having said that, this is not about religion at all. So I don't care what religion that you identify with, if you understand that there is a creator that has created this world and created us, you good. Okay. But we use the Bible because the Bible has been used to cause harm and it has been weaponized against people. And it's important to me that we are able to meet God in the words that God intended for us to have without the filter of how religion has been used to control people. So said all that to say, if you go to KimberlyJackson.com, you can see the Discover Your Destiny tab there. And if you're saying to yourself, you're not ready for like the actual intensive program, you can also access the workbook for $47 and you can do it self-paced if that is something that feels more like your jam. All right. So I said all that to say, y'all, let's get connected and let's get plugged in and understanding what is happening because a lot is going on right now, but we are very much equipped and able to be able to support ourselves and document what is happening in this current world. So having said all of that, let me go ahead and close this out with my closing quote. Every week, I like to leave us with something to think about and something that kind of encapsulates what our conversation was here. So the quote for this week says, "History is not what happened, it's who tells the story. Make sure your story is told by someone who loves you." And that was adapted from Grace Lee Boggs. And I'm going to add to that, you love you. So make sure you are telling your story. Okay? All right. So I will see y'all next week. Thank you to my BTS folks that were hanging out with me here in the chat as I am recording this. Again, if you are wanting to be in on that, please do go to the Patreon. I drop the link in there each week so that you're able to join me behind the scenes. Other than that, I will see y'all next week. Holla.
Thank you for listening to The Frolicking Truth, where joy meets justice and our nervous systems get free. Please be sure to like, rate, and comment. Subscribe to the YouTube page, Minding My Black Ass Business, and follow me on all social platforms. Until next time, bye.